I don't usually drive long distances at night, but that evening I had no choice. It was mid-January, right after New Year's, and I was driving home from my cousin's place in Colorado back to Utah, about a 6-hour trip through long, empty stretches of highway. I left later than I should have, around 8 p.m., thinking the roads would be quiet. They were, but maybe too quiet. After about 2 hours, I hadn't seen another car in either direction. Just the hum of my tires against cold asphalt and a faint static from the radio that refused to find a station. The air outside was freezing. My dashboard read 19 degrees, and every breath fogged up the glass just slightly. I remember glancing at the clock. 10:41 p.m., that's when I first saw him. At first I thought it was an animal on the side of the road, some dark shape in my headlights. But as I got closer, I realized it was a man. He was standing right by the reflective green sign that read, Mile 47. He wasn't waving me down or moving much at all, just standing perfectly still, facing the road, his head slightly tilted. I slowed down instinctively, wondering if he needed help. Maybe his car broke down. But then I noticed something. He wasn't dressed for the weather. No coat, no gloves, just a faded gray hoodie and jeans. And he was barefoot. That sent a strange shiver down my spine. I eased my foot off the gas, watching him as my car rolled closer. He didn't move, didn't even flinch at the light hitting him full on. When I passed him, I glanced into the side mirror. He was still standing there, but now his head was turned, following my car with his eyes. A mile or so later, I decided to pull over and check my phone for signal. Nothing. No bars, no GPS. The nearest town, if I remembered correctly, was about 20 minutes away, and I was already running low on gas. I told myself the guy was probably some local who got stranded, maybe drunk or disoriented. Still, something about him felt wrong. I kept driving. Around 10:55, I saw a faint light up ahead, maybe a small rest stop or service station. My relief lasted about 5 seconds before I realized it wasn't a building. It was another car, parked sideways across the shoulder, hazard lights blinking. A dark blue sedan, door slightly open. I slowed down again, debating whether to stop. But as my headlights swept across it, I saw the front bumper had a huge dent, and one of the tires was shredded. The driver's seat was empty, just as I was. About to pass, my high beams caught movement in the rearview mirror. Someone stepped out from the darkness behind that car. It was the same man, same hoodie, same bare feet, same limp posture, just watching my car roll by. My stomach dropped. I hit the gas and didn't look back. About 10 minutes later, I finally got a single bar of service. I called 911, told them what I saw, the barefoot man near mile 47 and the wrecked car farther up. The dispatcher's tone was calm, professional, but she asked me to repeat something, twice. "Sir, are you sure you said barefoot in this weather?" When I confirmed, she said units were already on the way to check that stretch of highway. She told me to continue driving until I reached the next populated area and stop at a gas station to wait if I felt unsafe. I thanked her and hung up, but I didn't feel safe. I kept glancing at my mirrors, half expecting to see that man running down the road again. By 11:20, I finally saw the faint glow of a town, a single street with a diner, 2 motels, and a 24-hour gas station. I pulled in, still tense, and went inside. The clerk was an older guy in a camo jacket. When I asked him if he'd heard about any accidents down the highway, he frowned. "Which direction?" he asked. "Eastbound." "Around mile 47, I think. I saw a car on the shoulder and someone walking barefoot." The man's face shifted slightly. Recognition, maybe. He told me to hold on, then walked to the back to make a call. When he came back, he said something that made my stomach twist. "Police found that car about an hour ago. Empty. Said the driver had already been taken to a hospital earlier this evening." I blinked. "Wait. What? Then who?" He shook his head. "That's the thing. They said the guy they rescued, he didn't survive. Single vehicle crash. Around mile 47. He must have seen the look on my face because his tone softened. Sometimes people think they see things out there. The road does weird stuff to your eyes when it's that dark. I nodded, but I knew what I saw. I wasn't tired enough to imagine someone that clearly, the way he turned his head, the way he appeared twice miles apart. I thanked the clerk and went back to my car. I sat there for a while, engine running, just staring at the empty street ahead. Before I pulled out, I looked in the rearview mirror one last time. In the reflection of the gas station glass, I swear I saw a shape standing near the road, facing the highway, perfectly still. I drove the rest of the night without stopping again. And even now, every time I pass a mile marker, I can't help but look. Because part of me knows someone's still standing there, waiting for a ride that never came. I drive trucks for a living, mostly long hauls through California and Nevada. I'm used to empty roads, late hours, and sketchy rest stops. But there's one night from about 5 years ago that still makes my stomach twist when I think about it. It was early summer, sometime around 2:30 a.m. I was heading north toward Sacramento with a half-loaded trailer of furniture. I'd been driving for almost 8 hours and needed gas, so when I saw a glowing sign up ahead, 24-hour service, food, showers, I decided to pull in. The lot was huge, but half the lights were out. Just a few trucks lined up. On the far side, engines humming quietly. I parked near the edge, close to the fence line where the desert stretched out black and endless. Inside, the place looked old. Flickering lights, yellowed tile floors, humming refrigerators that were half empty. Behind the counter was a woman in her 40s with a ponytail and a tired smile. She rang me up for gas and a coffee. When she handed me the receipt, she said something odd. "Don't hang around too long out there. We've had weird folks passing through tonight." I just nodded. Truck stops always have their share of weirdos, so I didn't think much of it. I filled up the tank, then sat in the cab for a minute, scrolling through my phone. The radio only picked up static. That's when I saw someone moving near the pumps. At first, I thought it was another driver, but when I leaned forward, I realized the guy wasn't walking. He was limping. He came from the far edge of the lot, wearing a jacket 2 sizes too big and dragging his right foot. His head was tilted slightly, like his neck couldn't straighten. He stopped near pump 4 about 30 feet from me and just stood there. No car, no truck, nothing around him. The automatic lights by the pumps flickered on, one by one, triggered by motion. I could see his face now, pale, unshaven, with a strange half-smile that didn't match his eyes. He was holding something small in his left hand, maybe a piece of paper or a tag. I thought maybe he needed help. Maybe his truck broke down. So I cracked the window and called out, "You all right, man?" He didn't answer, just turned his head toward me, slow as if it hurt to move. Then he started walking, straight toward my truck. Something about the way he moved made my skin crawl. I rolled the window up and locked the doors. He came closer until he was about 10 feet away, still dragging that foot, still smiling. Then he raised his left hand and pressed something flat against my driver's side window. It was a photo. An old Polaroid, faded and torn at the edges. Could barely make it out, but it looked like a picture of a man standing in front of a semi-truck. Not mine, but one similar. And scrawled across the bottom in black marker were 3 words, "You left me." I froze. When I looked back up at the man, he wasn't smiling anymore. He was staring directly at me, his face pressed against the glass, eyes wide open. I yelled, more out of shock than fear, and hit the horn. The sound echoed across the empty lot. He flinched, stepped back once, and then bolted, limping, off toward the fence, vanishing into the dark desert behind it. I sat there for a few seconds, heart pounding, trying to understand what I just saw. Then I grabbed my phone and called the front desk. The woman from earlier picked up. I told her what happened. The man, the photo, the message. Her voice went quiet. Then she said something that made the hairs on my neck rise. "Sir, you're not the first driver to see him." Apparently, over the last few months, a few truckers had reported a man limping through the lot at night. Always around the same time. Always carrying photos. Sometimes it was a picture of the driver themselves. Sometimes of someone else entirely. She said one guy had recognized the man's face from an old CB forum, a driver named Dale who died in an accident 3 years earlier on Highway 99, about 20 miles south of that same truck stop. His body was found near a wrecked semi. The other driver had survived but vanished afterward. The woman didn't say more. And honestly, I didn't want to hear more. I thanked her, started the engine, and got back on the highway without even finishing my coffee. For the next hour, I kept checking my mirrors. Every passing sign, every shadow in the ditch, it all looked like someone standing there, watching. When dawn finally broke, I stopped at a rest area near Fresno. I got out to stretch, trying to convince myself I'd imagined it, but when I opened the driver's side door, something slipped off the window and fell into my lap. It was the same Polaroid, the one that said, "You left me, only now." Written across the top in fresh ink was something new. I found you. I never went back to that truck stop again. And to this day, whenever I drive through Bakersfield after dark, I keep my eyes on the road and never, ever look at the pumps. This happened in late 2019, on a stretch of Highway 285 between Santa Fe and Roswell. If you've ever driven that road at night, you know how empty it feels. Just endless desert, no lights, and silence so heavy you start hearing things that aren't there. I was driving back from visiting my parents. It was close to midnight and I was maybe halfway through the trip, 3 hours into nothing but straight asphalt and cold wind. The sky was clear but moonless, so the only light came from my headlights carving through the dark. About 30 minutes in, I noticed headlights appear in my rearview mirror. A car, small, maybe a sedan, way in the distance. At first, I was glad. There's comfort in not being completely alone out there. But after 10 minutes, the headlights hadn't changed distance. They just stayed there. Same two glowing dots perfectly centered behind me. I slowed down a little, expecting the car to pass. It didn't. It just matched my speed. Now I know that kind of thing can happen. Maybe they're on cruise control. Maybe it's coincidence. But after another 15 minutes of that, I started to get uneasy. The road was wide open. No turns, no exits, no other cars for miles. So I decided to test it. I sped up to 75. The lights stayed right where they were. Then I slowed down to 55. Still there. At one point, I even flicked on my turn signal like I was about to pull over. And the moment I did, the headlights dipped low, like the other driver had tapped their brakes. That's when I realized they were watching me. I tried not to panic. I told myself maybe it was just another nervous traveler doing the same thing. Still, my pulse was racing. About 10 minutes later, I saw a small green sign up ahead. Rest area, 1 mile. I figured I'd pull in there. If the other car followed me, at least the area would have lights and maybe cameras. The rest area came into view, a single loop of pavement with a few picnic tables, dim orange lamps, and one vending machine buzzing quietly under a canopy. I slowed down, turned into the lot, and glanced at my mirror. The other car slowed down too. It pulled into the rest area entrance but stopped near the edge of the highway, engine idling. The headlights pointed directly at me. I parked under the light pretending to mess with my phone, but the car didn't move. It just sat there, lights on, idling. After a full minute, my nerves got the better of me. I put the car back in drive and eased toward the exit. The second I did, the other car backed up onto the highway, turned off its headlights, and started driving slowly ahead of me. Now it was in front of me, crawling along at maybe 30 miles an hour. That's when I realized what they were doing. They didn't want to pass me. They wanted me behind them. I slowed down, leaving a good distance, but the road stretched, straight for miles. I couldn't turn off anywhere. The red glow of their taillights stayed ahead, 2 small dots in the dark. Then maybe 10 minutes later, one of the brake lights flickered out, just for a moment. Then the other one, and suddenly both taillights went out. No headlights either. The entire car went completely dark. I slammed the brakes, heart hammering. My headlights shone on nothing, just an empty road. No car, no trace of movement. I pulled over, trying to catch my breath. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped my phone twice before finally getting the flashlight app open. The highway was dead silent. After a minute, I decided to start driving again. Slow this time. Maybe they'd turned off onto a dirt path. Maybe it was a prank. Either way, I just wanted out of there. A few miles later, I saw something ahead on the shoulder, what looked like a parked vehicle. I approached carefully. It was the same car, a dark gray sedan, parked with the driver's door open. No lights, no sound. I drove past as slowly as I could, trying to see inside. There was nobody in the driver's seat. But something was there, hanging from the rearview mirror. It looked like a piece of fabric, maybe a scarf or a strip of shirt. It was fluttering slightly, like someone had just brushed past it. That was enough for me. I floored it. About half an hour later, I reached the edge of a small town called Vaughn and pulled into a gas station. The attendant was this older guy, half asleep behind the counter. I told him what happened, trying to sound calm even though I was shaking. He raised his eyebrows and said, "You said Highway 285? I nodded. "We hear that a lot. Folks say they get followed out there. Some say it's just weird truckers messing around. Others, well..." He trailed off and looked toward the window, where the highway stretched off into blackness. "They say a woman died out there 10 years ago, rolled her car in the middle of the night. Driver of the other car never stopped. They found her a few miles past the rest area. Nobody ever found who was behind her that night." He gave a small shrug. "Maybe just a coincidence." I didn't respond. I filled up, bought a soda, and sat in my car for a while before heading out again. The rest of the drive was quiet. But sometimes when I drive that same route, if it's really late and there's no one else on the road, I catch myself glancing in the rearview mirror. And every so often, I think I see two faint lights behind me, staying the exact same distance away. This happened in 2022 when I was driving cross-country for work. I was headed from Texas to Colorado and decided to stop somewhere in northern New Mexico for the night. It was late, almost 1 a.m., and I'd been on the road for close to 12 hours straight. The only motel I could find nearby was one of those old single-story ones that looked like it hadn't been updated since the early 90s. Big glowing vacancy sign, half the letters flickering, a faded blue awning that said Silver Sky Motel. I pulled in, parked near the office, and went inside. The place smelled like dust and cleaning supplies. Behind the counter sat a woman in her 60s, watching a small TV. She barely looked up when I came in. "One night?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just passing through." She gave me this long look, not suspicious, just tired, and slid a clipboard across the counter. Name, license plate, and signature. I filled it out, and she handed me a single brass key on a big plastic tag that said, "Room 6. Back, row middle door," she said. "Checkout's at 11. The parking lot was empty except for my car and an old pickup near the far end. All the doors were dark except one, room 8, where the light inside flickered through the curtains. As I walked to my room, I noticed something odd. The number on the key tag looked like it had been scratched and rewritten with a marker. You could faintly see the old number underneath. 9. Didn't think much of it at the time. Room 6 was small, but clean enough. Beige carpet, thin curtains, one buzzing lamp by the bed. I dropped my bag, kicked off my shoes, and turned on the TV just for background noise. Sometime around 2 a.m., I was half asleep when I heard a noise. It was faint, but distinct. A click, like a key turning in a lock. Then, silence. I sat up, listening. A few seconds later, another click. This time, definitely at my door. I froze. Someone was trying to unlock it. I got up quietly and walked to the door. The doorknob rattled once, gently, like someone was testing it. Then I heard a whisper, muffled but close. "Hello?" Wasn't the motel clerk's voice. This one was younger. A man. I didn't answer. I just stood there staring at the handle, heart pounding. After a few seconds, I heard the key scrape in the lock again, this time harder, like they were frustrated. That's when I spoke up. Wrong room. Silence. Then I heard footsteps. Slow, dragging, moving away from the door, down the walkway. I waited a good minute before peeking through the curtain. The walkway was empty except for a single figure near the end of the row, a man in a gray hoodie walking toward the back lot. He stopped near room 9 and pulled out what looked like another key. He tried that one too. After a moment, he gave up, turned, and walked out of view. I was shaken but told myself maybe he'd just gotten the wrong room. It was late, maybe he was drunk. Still, I put a chair under the doorknob and left the light on. Around 3 a.m., I woke up again, this time to a sound from outside my window, soft, slow tapping on the glass. 3 taps, pause, then 3 more. Sat there, not moving. The tapping stopped. Then came a voice, the same one I'd heard at the door. "Hey, I think that's my room." I stayed silent. After a few seconds, the curtain shifted slightly, like someone was trying to peek through the edge. That's when I shouted, "Get the hell out of here! I'm calling the front desk!" The curtain dropped. I heard fast footsteps, running off into the parking lot. I called the front office right away. The woman answered after a few rings, her voice groggy. I told her someone was outside my room trying to get in. There was a pause. Then she said quietly, "What room are you in?" 6. Another pause. "Sir, we don't rent out room." So my stomach dropped. "What do you mean? You gave me the key yourself." She sounded confused. "No, I gave you 9. Room 9. I remember. The tag's been worn, but the number's 9. Room 6 has been closed for years. We keep it locked." I turned and looked around the room. The old furniture, the dusty lamp, the faint smell of mildew I hadn't noticed before. Suddenly it made sense. "Then who's in room 9?" I asked. "Should just be you," she said slowly. "You're the only guest tonight." She told me to stay put and said she was coming down with the police on the way. It felt like forever before I saw headlights sweep across the lot. When she and a deputy got there, I opened the door. The officer checked the area first. No one around, but he found fresh footprints in the dirt near my window. Heavy ones like boots. They led around the back of the building and stopped near the tree line. When I showed them my key, the woman looked pale. It was scratched, just like I'd noticed before. The 9 rewritten over an old 6. She whispered. I told him to throw those old keys away. I asked, "Who?" "My son," she said. "He used to help me here. Before he..." She didn't finish the sentence, but I saw the look on her face. The deputy told me to grab my things and follow him to room 9, the real one. It was brighter, cleaner, and the sheets looked freshly changed. He said they'd patrol the area until morning. I didn't sleep much after that. Every sound outside made my chest tighten. When the sun finally came up, I checked out. The woman didn't charge. Me just said quietly, "You take care now." As I was leaving, I looked over at room 6. The window was cracked open slightly. Inside, I could see the corner of an old bed frame and a lamp covered in dust, exactly the same as the one in my room. But this time, the light was off. I never found out who that man was, or why he had a key. But sometimes when I think back to that night, I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't spoken up, if I'd just pretended to be asleep when the door handle started to turn.